this part, we'll focus on preparing and sewing the sleeves, attaching the lining, and finishing the jacket. We move on to the process of sewing the sleeves. Now let's look at how to prepare the pieces before assembly. We transfer the markings. To mark the front of the sleeve, I put these small crosses with tailor's chalk. This way I can immediately see that this is the front of the sleeve. We also transfer the markings for the seam placement for gathering the sleeve cap. We reinforce the upper part of the sleeve on the wrong side with interfacing, and I have already drawn the hemline. Be sure to do this with thread. It will simplify the further steps of sewing the sleeve. We also prepare the sleeve pieces from the lining fabric. We mark the front of the sleeves with a cross as well. Next, we will need batting, a padding fabric, and we cut out 2 shoulder head pieces. These pieces will be needed later for the upper part of the sleeve, when the sleeve is already sewn into the armhole. So from marking to marking on the wrong side of the sleeve, we stitch along the edge of the interfacing line. We take the thread that comes from the bobbin and make a gathering. Using our fingers, we form the shape at the top of the sleeve. On the other side, we also pull the bobbin thread and make a gathering. On the sleeve side, beyond the seam, there should be no gathering. The gathering, meaning fabric waves, may remain only in the seam allowance area. We need to distribute the gathering so that on the sleeve side there is a smooth line without folds or waves, while still creating the convex shape of the sleeve cap. It should be shaped so that fingers can fit inside. Now the sleeve has acquired a natural shape that follows the shoulder of the arm. To secure the result on the upper part of the sleeve and smooth the gathering, we press this area with the front edge of the iron, placing the sleeve on the edge of the sleeve ironing board. Slowly and carefully press this sleeve area. We can see that due to pressing, the visibility of the gathering is smoothed out and the shape we need remains. After pressing, we can tie off the gathering stitch threads. Now we connect the sleeve with the lining. We fold the sleeve pieces with the right sides together, align them along the bottom line, and secure them with pins. Stitch. After that, we direct the seam allowance toward the lining side and top stitch at 0.2 centimeter from the seam line. In this way, we fix the seam allowance on the lining side. Next, we fold the sleeve, aligning the side edges of the sleeve and stitch. After stitching, the seam must be pressed open. We turn the sleeve right side out, aligning it along the bottom line of the main fabric sleeve. At this stage, you will see that the lining is about 4 centimeters longer than the main fabric sleeve. This is correct. These are allowances for freedom of arm movement after attaching the sleeve to the jacket. At the bottom, we form a 1 centimeter fold from the lining and direct it toward the hemline. First, we secure it with pins, then with hand stitches. After that, turning the sleeve right side out from the main fabric, we see that the seam allowance is about 1.5 centimeter longer than on the main sleeve. This is also correct. This is necessary for freedom of arm movement. The lining fabric should not pull or restrict arm movement. This extra freedom is also included for elements such as the shoulder pad and shoulder head, since they also have volume and will be located inside between the main sleeve fabric and the lining. attaching the sleeve to the armhole. First, we will attach the sleeve made from the main fabric to the armhole without the lining. Mark the shoulder point on the sleeve. All markings were transferred earlier. We open the jacket and align the shoulder point of the sleeve with the shoulder line on the armhole. First, we attach the sleeve only along the upper part of the armhole, from the shoulder line to one side and from the shoulder line to the other side. Secure with pins. The upper zone ends where we had the gathering marks on the sleeve. Using these marks, we finish attaching the sleeve to the armhole in the upper section. Now comes an important moment. We do not stretch the lower part of the sleeve onto the armhole and do not try to force it to match the armhole. What should be done? We need to let the sleeve fall and settle at the bottom the way it naturally wants to lie, according to how the fabric behaves naturally. This way you will see that the sleeve looks perfect from the right side, without distortions or creases. We see that the sleeve sits lower than the armhole, and that is exactly how we fix it. We do not try to pull or force the sleeve into the armhole. We fix it exactly as it naturally lies at the bottom. After pinning the lower part of the sleeve to the armhole, you will see excess fabric on the armhole side. Do not worry, we will trim it later. Now turn the jacket to the right side and evaluate how the sleeve is set. Look at the armhole line from the front, from the top, and from the back. Then evaluate how the sleeve itself lies. Everything should look good to you. Only if you like the armhole lines from the right side and how the sleeve lies, you can secure the sleeve to the armhole with hand stitches to do a fitting on yourself. To attach the sleeve to the armhole, I recommend using not regular basting stitches, but the back stitch. This stitch imitates a machine stitch. Thanks to this, we will clearly see how the sleeve is set, and during fitting we can evaluate whether everything suits us. We attach the lower part of the sleeve from the sleeve side so we can see where the seam will run. turning the jacket over, we see a new armhole line. From the right side, we check whether everything looks the way we want, or we do a fitting. Please note, the side seam of the jacket does not have to align with the side seam of the sleeve. This is not mandatory. If they do not match, it is not a mistake. This is acceptable. We trim the excess fabric at the bottom of the armhole. The sleeve should be sewn from the sleeve side, starting the seam from the side seam. Girls, during machine sewing of the sleeve into the armhole, we constantly turn the entire jacket so that the fabric does not stretch in the area being sewn. We secure the stitch at the end. Check whether the stitch is straight and whether we shifted anywhere. If the stitch is straight, we can remove the hand stitches from the armhole. Shoulder head. Now we take our shoulder head pieces that we cut earlier. We place them from the sleeve side, aligning the center of the shoulder head with the shoulder line. We secure it with pins inside the sleeve. We will sew them on with hand stitches, stepping back 0.1 centimeter from the seam line into the seam allowance. Why hand stitches? Because I first tried sewing them by machine, and I didn't like how the shoulder head lay. So I also recommend attaching it with hand stitches using a back stitch. Now let's turn the jacket right side out and see how this batting piece creates a beautiful upper sleeve line. This batting piece will also hold the shape of the upper sleeve cap that we formed earlier with gathering. Shoulder pad. We move on to the shoulder pad details. You can make them yourself or buy ready-made ones. My shoulder pads are hand assembled. As you can see, I took them from another jacket that I don't wear. Also note that the shoulder pads have a concave shape. We fold the shoulder pad in half to find its center and align it with the shoulder line of the jacket. The shoulder pad should be attached so that its concave shape faces upward. When we turn the jacket right side out, we will see that the shoulder pad follows the shape of the shoulder perfectly. Align the center of the shoulder pad with the shoulder line. The thicker part of the shoulder pad will be on the armhole side, and closer to the neckline the volume decreases. Secure with pins. I also recommend sewing the shoulder pad with hand stitches and not pulling the stitches tight. Do not pull the thread tightly, leave some freedom. When sewing the shoulder pad, I orient myself by the hand stitch line of the shoulder head sewn earlier so that the stitch does not come through to the right side of the jacket. Just in case, check that you have not sewn through to the right side of the jacket. Once everything is correct, turn the jacket back to the wrong side and now secure the shoulder pad at the neckline. Fold 1 centimeter of the shoulder pad and attach it to the shoulder seam allowances with hand stitches, catching only the seam allowance so that nothing is visible on the right side. As a result, we have secured the shoulder pad along the armhole line and near the neckline. Turn the jacket right side out and see how the shoulder pad creates a structured and voluminous shoulder area. Before we start joining the lining pieces, I suggest basting the jacket hemline. I baste with large diagonal stitches, stepping down 1.5 centimeters from the top edge of the hem. Also, leave this distance at the top so that it will be easy to connect the lining to the bottom later. Joining the lining pieces, attaching the lining to the jacket, finishing the jacket hem. I'm going to pause the video here as well. When I was editing the video, I noticed that the part where I sew the back pieces from the lining fabric is missing. In fact, this is a very simple step, nothing complicated. All you need to do is sew the darts on the back pieces first, then stitch the pieces together along the center seam. After that, join the back with the front pieces. Now let's continue. Align the center panel with the side panel, matching the markings, fold the right sides together and sew. I first connect the pieces from the top, then from the bottom to the chest line. And then I distribute the chest area by securing and combining the pieces with a pin. Then join the back with the front pieces along the side seams. The lining pieces are now assembled. Along the back neckline of the lining, we have 2 markings. Align these markings to form a 1 centimeter pleat and secure it with a pin. Turn the jacket right side out and arrange it so it's convenient to attach the lining. Direct each side inward so that the facing lines are visible. Place the lining right side to right side with the jacket. Align the center back of the lining with the center of the lower facing line on the back. Then align the shoulder seams. Next, matching the markings, align the facing with the lining. Sew from the bottom of the facing on one side and finish at the end of the facing line on the other side. Trim the seam allowance, leaving 0.5 centimeters from the seam line. Turn the jacket right side out and admire the result. Then turn it back to the wrong side and proceed to finish the jacket hem. Align the center of the lining with the center of the jacket along the hemline and secure with pins. After aligning the central section, move from the center toward the front of the jacket. Here, align the pieces along the front edge. Secure the hemline up to the area where the seam connecting the side and center panel of the lining is located. From that point to the front edge, align the hemline strictly following the straight hemline of the jacket. Allow the lining and facing area to naturally align along the jacket hemline. Secure with pins. Repeat on the other side. In this section, join the pieces along the hemline using the straight hemline of the main fabric jacket pieces as a guide. Allow the lining fabric to fall naturally and align it with the jacket hemline. We will stitch the hem from the jacket side, meaning from the main fabric side. Now we can trim the excess lining fabric. Cut out the corner. From the corner, smoothly trim the seam allowances along the hemline. As you can see, the bottom edge of the jacket pieces is sewn in a straight line in the main fabric. We only trim the excess visible on the lining side. Cut out the corner. From the corner, smoothly trim the seam allowances along the hemline. Turn the jacket right side out and look at how the hemline looks. We align the hemline according to the hand-basted hemline and straighten the front corner. Along the hemline, we will also have a 1 cm pleat from the lining directed downward. This is a pleat for ease. Repeat on the other side, aligning the front edges and straightening the corners. At this stage, it is important to align the front edges of the jacket and check whether both sides are the same length. We see that everything matches, the lines align correctly. Now we can baste the 1 cm lining pleat at the bottom of the jacket. You can mark this 1 cm beforehand, especially if you are a beginner. First secure with pins, then with hand stitches. We need to attach the hemline to the jacket. To do this, pull the bottom of the jacket through the armhole so you can see the folded hem allowance. Fold it downward and attach it to the jacket with hand stitches. Do not pull the stitches tight. Leave slight ease so the jacket does not pull on the right side. At each area where there is a seam, pull the hem allowance through the armhole, fold it downward, and sew, catching only the seam allowance fabric. Attaching the lining sleeve to the armhole. Pull out the lining sleeves. Traditionally, according to tailoring rules, the remaining operations are done through an opening in the lining sleeve. However, since our sleeves are short, this is not possible. So we will make an opening in the seam between the side and center lining panels. Step down 10 to 12 centimeters from the armhole seam and mark the beginning and end of the opening with pins. Turn to the wrong side and transfer the pin markings. Make bar tacks at the top and bottom before opening the seam. Cut the seam. Through this opening, we can reach inside the jacket and attach the lining sleeve to the armhole. To prevent twisting, first secure the sleeve side seam to the lining side seam. Turn the sleeve and lining armhole through the opening and attach the sleeve to the armhole only at the lower part. When attaching the lining sleeve to the lining armhole, the jacket needs to be turned repeatedly to access different areas. This is often the most time-consuming stage of the jacket construction process. What do you think? Let's talk about it in the comments. I'd love to hear your experience. The upper part of the sleeve is larger than the armhole, so we create a gathering at the top of the sleeve, or you can make pleats in the back area. Now attach the upper part of the sleeve to the armhole and secure it with pins. I recommend securing with hand stitches before sewing on the machine because this area is not easy to sew. You will constantly need to turn the jacket and everything will twist. Hand basting first will save your nerves. After sewing the sleeve into the armhole, we need to connect the shoulder lines of the lining and the main fabric jacket. On the right side, align the shoulder lines, turn to the wrong side. At the armhole seam, find the shoulder line, secure the thread, then catch the shoulder seam allowance of the lining and form a loop of thread 2 centimeters long. Make a few stitches. This loop will hold the lining in place and prevent twisting when wearing the jacket. Turn the jacket right side out and see that the shoulder lines are secured. If you look at the other side where this is not done, you will see the difference. Now that all internal operations are done, align the opening edges and sew them closed, either by hand or by machine. Buttonholes and buttons, final pressing, removing hand stitches. I will leave the jacket without top stitching, but you can explore different types of decorative stitches and choose what you like. The pattern indicates which side should have buttonholes and which side should have buttons. Also note that the length of the buttonhole depends on the size of the button. You can reduce the buttonhole length to fit the button size. The reduction is done from the side edge toward the center. The center line itself must not be shifted. The final stage includes the final pressing of the garment and the removal of all temporary hand-basted stitches. Decorative top stitching is optional and not required. As a result, the jacket achieves a finished appearance, correct fit, and a clean, well-executed interior corresponding to a professional level of tailoring. This concludes the jacket sewing process. You've completed the entire journey, from individual pieces to a fully assembled garment. Take a moment to give yourself credit and enjoy the satisfaction of your work. Thank you for sewing along with me. See you in the next videos.